Hey, what you're watching right now is a real Claude Code session. 2 hours of work, sped up to fit into this video. By the end of it, this empty folder you see on screen turns into a 49-sheet Excel workbook with pivot tables, charts, VBA macros, the works. And here's the kicker. I didn't write a single line of code. Claude did. Stick around, because the most interesting part isn't even the workbook. It's what I asked Claude to do right at the very end of the session. We'll get there. Quick thing I want to flag before we dive in. This video is itself a little experiment for me. The screen recording you're watching, I didn't edit it. I didn't cut out the dead air. I didn't splice together the parts that worked and hide the parts that didn't. You're getting the whole thing as it actually happened, just played back faster. And honestly, that decision changes the kind of video this is. We'll come back to that. So, if you've been subscribed to KuduTek for a while, you know this channel started life as an Excel tutorial channel. I want to clear something up before we go further. I'm splitting the content. All future Excel-specific tutorials, tips, demos, that stuff is now living on a brand new channel called XLNavigator. Links in the description. So if Excel is what brought you here, go subscribe over there too. That channel isn't going anywhere. There is actually more focused Excel content planned over there than I've ever made on this one. But it'll be Excel only. KuduTek, this channel, is becoming something different. This is where I'm going to share what it actually looks like to build and try to sell digital products on the internet as a solo developer. The good days, the bad days, the AI tools I'm obsessed with right now, the stuff that doesn't work. Real talk. No 10 tips to crush it thumbnails. If that sounds like your thing, smash that subscribe button. I've been waiting years to say that. The honest reason I'm splitting the channels is that the audience for how do I make a pivot table is just a different audience than the one for watch me try to figure out how to launch and sell software in the AI era. Trying to serve both was making me serve neither. So now Excel content has a focused home, and this channel gets to be about the journey. Mistakes very much included. Okay, back to what's on screen. The reason I needed an Excel workbook in the first place is because I built an Excel add-in product called XLNavigator. It's actually a suite of 4 add-ins, each one solving a different daily annoyance for PowerShell users. There's one that gives you a vertical sidebar of tabs instead of that horrible horizontal scroll at the bottom. There's one that drops a real date picker into any cell. There's a workbook explorer that lets you see and jump to every object, every named range, every pivot, every chart, like a structure pane for Excel. And there's one that imports SQL query results straight into Excel. I'll let the XLNavigator channel deep dive each of those properly. But to record demo videos for those products, I needed an Excel file rich enough to actually show them off. Hidden sheets, tables, pivots, charts, notes, VBA, the whole zoo. Realistic data, not fake-looking placeholder rows. Multiple sheets per topic, so the navigation features have something to actually navigate. I could have built that workbook by hand. Probably would have taken me a full day, maybe 2. Instead, I opened Claude Code in an empty folder and basically said, hey, go read my product website, figure out what features the add-ins have, then design and build me a workbook that demonstrates all of them. And then I just let it cook. And here's something I want to flag, because it's a habit I've picked up. Before Claude wrote any code, I asked it to write the plan. Just the plan. A document describing what sheets we'd need, what tables, what data, what formulas, what gotchas to watch for. We went back and forth on that plan for a while. We argued about how many sheets. We argued about whether to include VBA. By the time we agreed on the plan, the actual code was almost a formality. That planning document is in this repo and it's still useful weeks later. Plans are deliverables. Don't skip them. Now this is the part I want you to really pay attention to, because I think it's the most important thing in this whole video. What you're watching is sped up, but it is unedited. It is the actual sequence of events. That means you are watching me hit walls. You are watching things fail. You are watching me ask Claude to explain stuff I don't understand. This is not a highlight reel. And by the way, because this video is moving fast, if any part of the session looks interesting and you want to actually follow what's happening on screen, pause it, rewind it, drop the YouTube playback speed down to half. That very first stage right at the start? That's a great place to do it, because that's where things got bumpy. You'll see Claude trying to save the workbook and running into these weird errors. Excel automation from PowerShell is famously finicky, and there were a bunch of little gotchas that only show up the first time you try something. Claude didn't know about them yet. I didn't either. We figured them out together. So go slow through that bit if you want to see the actual back and forth. And here's the thing. The workflow I want you to take away from this video is not Claude is magic, just type a prompt. The workflow is, when something breaks, you don't panic and you don't just paste the error and pray. You read what Claude is telling you. If it's using a term you don't know, you literally just type, "Explain that to me," and it will. You treat Claude like a really smart pair programmer who happens to type fast. You stay in the driver's seat. That's the muscle. I cannot overstate how freeing this is, by the way, especially for people like me who are not classically trained software engineers. I came up through Excel. I came up through Power Query. I'm comfortable with VBA. PowerShell? Not really my home turf. COM automation? Definitely not. But none of that mattered, because every time something landed on screen that I didn't recognize, I asked. And the answer came back in language I could actually use. The barrier between I have an idea and I have a working tool has just collapsed in the last year. And I think a lot of people who aren't engineers haven't fully internalized that yet. You should. And you can see it on screen. We go through 10 phases. Create the workbook skeleton, populate the data, build tables, define named ranges, write formulas, generate pivots, render charts, add shapes and comments, inject VBA, finalize. Each phase is its own script, idempotent, rerunnable. Because the moment something blew up, I didn't want to start over from scratch. I wanted to fix that one stage and keep moving. That structure, splitting a big ambitious task into clean, rerunnable phases, is something I picked up the hard way over the years. You'll see Claude proposing it as part of the plan. That's the right instinct. Don't try to one-shot a workbook. Build it in stages. Each stage should be small enough to fit in your head, and each stage should be safe to rerun if it failed halfway through. If you take nothing else from this video, take that. Now, if I had stopped right there, this would already be a useful video. We took an empty folder, gave Claude a website URL and a goal, and we ended up with a real working workbook 2 hours later. Cool. Click subscribe. See you next time. But here's where it gets actually interesting. And this is the second big takeaway. Once the workbook was finished and I had verified everything worked, I asked Claude to do one more thing. I said, take everything you learned during this build, all the helpers, all the patterns, all those weird gotchas we hit, the 10-phase pipeline, turn it into a reusable skill set and an agent that I can use on the next project. And this is the bit on screen near the end where you see Claude generating a whole pack of stuff into a folder. 5 skills. An orchestrator agent. A README. 12 gotchas, each one documented with the broken code that caused it, the actual error message, the fixed version, and a one-line explanation of why it broke in the first place. Future me, opening a new project 6 months from now, doesn't have to remember any of it. The agent already knows. Now the next time I want a demo workbook for any product, could be a finance demo, could be a CRM demo, could be anything. I just point that agent at a short spec file and I get the whole thing. The 2 hours we just watched, it collapses down to maybe 10 minutes of automated execution. The next workbook I build won't be from scratch. It'll start from a place that already knows everything I figured out the hard way. This is the meta move. This is the thing I think most people are sleeping on with AI coding tools. Don't just ship the project. The moment you have a working solution, ask the AI to extract the system, codify the gotchas, capture the patterns. Build yourself a compounding library of agents and skills that get smarter every time you finish a project. It is so much more powerful than treating every new task as a blank page. Think about what that means for a solo developer specifically. If you're a one-person team, you can't outscale a real team by working harder. They will always have more hours. But you can outscale them by making sure that none of your hours go to waste. Every project you finish should make the next one cheaper to ship. That's how a one-person operation actually competes. And honestly, it's the part of AI tooling that excites me the most right now. That's why I'm so into Claude Code right now. Not because it writes code. Lots of things write code. It's because the workflow loop closes. You build, you distill, you reuse. And then the next project starts halfway done. I've been using a lot of AI coding tools over the past couple of years, and this is the first one where that loop actually feels real to me. Alright, big picture. This is the kind of stuff I want to make on KuduTek going forward. AI-assisted development workflows, solopreneur experiments, the journey of trying to actually sell a digital product on the internet without being a marketing wizard. AI video generation, which, by the way, I'm getting deep into right now, and there will absolutely be a video about that soon. The tools that exist today for AI-generated video are genuinely starting to be useful, not just gimmicky. Some of the future content on this channel will be made with them. Some of it I'll do the old-fashioned way. I'll always be transparent about which is which. That's the deal. Real experiences, real mistakes. None of that airbrushed influencer energy. I'd rather make a video that's a little rough, but actually shows you something true, than a polished one that doesn't. That's what this video is. That's what the next ones will be. So here's my ask. If any of this resonates with you, the AI workflow stuff, the solopreneur stuff, the just build it in public energy, hit subscribe, hit the bell, and drop a comment telling me what kind of project you'd want to throw at Claude Code if you had a free afternoon. Seriously. I read every single one. The comments are usually the most interesting part of the week for me, and I'd love to see what you'd build. Some of those comments will probably turn into future videos. If you're an Excel person, the XLNavigator channel is where that content lives from now on. I'll link it down below. Go subscribe over there too. I'll see you in the next one.